All right. Well, welcome everybody to our Monday Night Healthy Huddle. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Megan Renna. This is Brandon Renna. We love joining everybody on Monday nights and pouring in and working through all the different habits of health. Because if you have not figured out, there are many that contribute to our overall health and well-being. And so we like to focus in and work through all of those so that it creates that stability for us and that underlying structure to keep us moving forward in all aspects and areas too. I actually am so excited because I have a really sweet friend that's going to share, I think you've heard from many people kind of sharing their own transformation, but I also thought it would be fun for you to hear for many of us when we're pursuing health ourselves, to maybe we're thinking and pursuing our own health goals, but what about the people that are depending on you most to be your best healthy self too? So I thought it would be fun to also hear from spouses' perspectives. Kristen got healthy herself, but then has also gotten to see her hubby really transform. And so I think that that'll mean a lot for many of you to hear kind of the other side of it. So Kristen, do you mind popping off mute and sharing a little bit of your transformation and what you're excited to create in your family now?
Of course. Thank you for inviting me to speak tonight. And just to kind of give you guys a little back history. So my husband Brett and I, we both came from families that were relatively healthy. We both of our families, they cooked food from scratch. They always ate very healthfully. They were adamant about getting out there and exercising and participating in sports and going on family hikes. And so we had a great foundation laid for both of us. But things changed over time. We got married and really had kids is what did it for us, as I think happens with a lot of people. We started experiencing, lack of sleep. We have 3 kids. None of them are good sleepers, unfortunately, as hard as we've tried. And, it just became more of a struggle. When you're tired, we all know what happens. You don't eat well. You start eating carbs and sugars, and exercise wasn't happening because who has the time, especially when you're exhausted? And it kind of funneled from one thing to another. And in addition to that, my husband, Brett, he works in sales, and he is out and about during the day. He is traveling, which means he's almost always eating lunch on the road, sometimes dinners as well, out with customers, etc. And so everything kind of was compiling. And all of a sudden, before we knew it, Brett was about 80 pounds overweight, considered morbidly obese, which was scary. He was, at the time, he had just turned 40. We have 2 of our, 4 parents who have already passed away at a young age, and they were very healthy. But, things happen, and it was scary to think that here he was, so overweight. Things were not getting better, and the stress wasn't really under control as well. And so there were just a lot of areas where, we needed help. And then I found with myself, after having our 3rd child, that what was previously easy for me to do to lose the weight, just from nursing and getting back into my routine, I think, 3 children is a lot. We were overwhelmed, and everyone's schedules and the lack of sleep, and all of a sudden I actually found myself putting on weight for the first time after having a child, and that felt like a slippery slope as well. So last June, we connected with our health coach, and I got started. I was still nursing, so I did the Nursing Moms program, and within 5 weeks, I was able to lose 15 pounds and felt great. My husband, Brett, he went on the 5-in-1 program, and it took him about 5 months, and he lost 60 pounds. And, both of us, we were just much more confident and comfortable, just knowing that we were giving ourselves that gift of health and showing our children, we knew what it meant to be healthy and what we should be doing, but we weren't doing it. as well as we could have been. And so we felt like that was something that was very important to us that we needed to find a way to get back to. And so this, just really jump-started us in the right direction. And, a couple other things that we realized that were kind of bonuses, was one, it alleviated a strain on our relationship, because I especially was very concerned, seeing Brett be as heavy as he was and knowing that it was only getting worse. And he knew that he needed to do something about it. He just wasn't quite sure how to get there. And he kept saying, oh, I need to go to the gym, I need to work out. And yes, those are great things. But, when you're already lacking for time and energy and everything else, it wasn't happening. And so there was a strain on our relationship. But some other benefits that we've seen, since completing the program are that, Brett is much more comfortable. He's not having the knee strain and the back aches, and he's able to get down on the floor and play with the kids, which is hugely important to us, that he's able to, be involved with them. And he's actually, just these past few months, been coaching our son's basketball team for the first year. And, he said that he's not sure that he would have felt comfortable doing it, because he needs to be able to keep up running up and down the court with these kids, and they're 7 years old. And so, having lost that weight and getting fit again has really given that gift to him and to all of us. So yeah, and then from there, I've gone on to become a health coach myself, and it's been great because it keeps us both very accountable. It's motivating to Brett to continue to work at this. He's actually back on program. He now wants to go ahead and lose that extra 20 pounds. And he's learning the healthy habits along the way. And then for me, it's been, it's great because, we're still struggling with the kids in their sleep. And so we still have days where, we're not feeling our best, but it forces me to continue to make healthy choices in light of that. So I say, I am tired. I am having a rough day. I'm not going to turn to sugar and carbs. I want to set a good example, not only to my family, but to my clients and to, the people that are, around me, my friends and family. So yeah, that's our story.
That's so awesome, Kristen. It was so fun to see you on Saturday and see you beaming, bragging about your husband and how much it means to see him out there on the court with your kiddos and playing and being active and just feeling like a new man and feeling that energy and that zest back for life. So I love what you guys have created together as a family and that new legacy that you guys are going to be passing on to your kids as a result of it, and the relationships of how those are going to change because they have such an active dad now too, out there with them, pouring into them as a coach as well on the basketball court. That's just so incredible. And so that's even what another component of what we're going to talk about tonight. So as coaches, we really want to, again, always have you thinking and focusing on what is your optimal health? What is your optimal best self too? Because we want to be those agents of transformation to help you work through all the different aspects. And so our program really does focus on the healthy body piece, which is usually the start, but we also have those other components that fit together, which is the healthy mind and the healthy finances. So for us, I know I lost my 40 pounds 4 years ago. I felt great in my physical health, but I still felt this huge weight and burden because of the debt that we were carrying.
Yeah, we both did. Yeah. And I wouldn't say I understood it fully until the debt was gone. And we'll get to that in a minute. But it felt like I had, and I'm silly, but I felt like I had another lobe in my lung to breathe out of. I didn't realize what it felt like to take that full breath and really be more at rest. So
yeah. So that's what we wanted to chat about tonight. Whereas, sometimes we need structure and discipline within setting our health goals, but we also, because of maybe the lack of discipline and structure within our finances and our budget, have played a part in us not achieving some of those health goals, or played a part in where we've kind of landed in that area. And so sometimes then when you get to really focus on them together to move you forward in both. And so that's what we really want to talk about, getting lean in your finances. And so I think that our checkbooks can really reveal our priorities and our values. And so it's hard to take a look at that sometimes. But I've also seen for many people, when they're not operating out of this healthy budget, they don't know where their money is always going. They just know it runs out.
Right.
And sometimes when we see it run out, the first thing that we cut out is something like our health, like our self-care, right? And so then it's like creates that other vicious cycle where we cut out the self-care and we put it towards the emergency or the urgency of what we think we need. But if we had just taken maybe a bigger, like a step up and elevated to look at the bigger picture of our budget and to reallocate our money sometimes, we can continue to move forward in that self-care, continue to move forward in affording our program and everything else to keep us moving forward, to have that mental clarity we need as well. So we wanted to just share a couple of things that we...
Yeah, so we want to share a couple of things that we've learned. A lot of this isn't from Optavia, but you'll see where it all fits in. And it's funny you said checkbook. I don't think anybody in here has a checkbook anymore.
Is that a thing of the past?
And what, somebody does, yeah. We want to make sure that you guys understand your current reality. And so we'll get into that too. But if you've never gotten on your banking software, whether that's through your bank or read your actual statement that you get, you might even be kind of folding it up and putting it away. Now on our bodies, we don't necessarily get that luxury, right? You have to take your clothes off and take a shower or something like that. But, for some people, it's turning the lights off. So you're just avoiding the inevitable. You're avoiding, understanding how far off track you might have gotten. So I would encourage people to take a look at their finances. It might be a punch in the stomach, but it's truth.
Yeah.
It's truth. And so what we've kind of learned over the years. Good.
I was just going to say, we've actually there's multiple different programs out there.
Yeah.
One of the ones that we used that was so beneficial for us was Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace course. We took it twice. We took it each time we added a child, because there were a lot of new expenses that came with each one.
Yeah.
But for us, even, it really just got us on the same board, communication wise, about our finances and where we wanted them to go. And we honestly before that, had never even looked at really where our money was going. And so when we sat down and looked at what we had been spending, one of our biggest areas was on eating out. And I was astonished at how much money was going in that area.
Yeah.
And so again, I would encourage you, we'll get to the budget in a minute, but start off yes, the current reality is always really important, but sometimes if we're so focused on the current reality of it and we don't necessarily have the vision of where we want to go, we just stay in the toxic thoughts around it of I'll never get out of this debt, or we never have enough. But again, just like we use structural tension within our health goals, right? We talk about where do we want to go, and then we talk about the current reality and the steps to take to get to that vision. So I would say, whether you're single or whether you're married, really get clear on your financial vision board of where do you want to see your finances going in the next 10 years, and then start kind of working backwards towards 5-year goal and your 3-year goal, your 2-year, your 1 year, and then makes those small bite-sized goals in between too, to give yourself that easy win. I know for us, what we learned through the financial piece as well is that we have very different personalities, even when it came to finances. So Brandon was the nerd, which is, you'll understand if you ever take that. And I was the free spirit. And so the more that he was setting this strict budget, the more I would rebel against it. But once we found that we could kind of set this budget, and if he gave a little bit of wiggle room for this free spirit, then we were able to get really, really clean in that.
So we realized a lot about ourselves. We had to face that pretty, like I said, truthfully, and we couldn't get away from it. We had kind of run out of money before the end of the month. And what does Dave Ramsey say? There's too much month at the end of the money. And that was the first time that drove us in there, that current reality of okay, we're running aground. And I think it was all just weighing on us so heavy. We were roughly about $100,000 in debt, and most of that was my graduate school. So when you get into Dave Ramsey's class, and a lot of classes, and so we're just going to kind of pick things out that we think are really relevant.
That helped us move forward.
Yeah. You kind of have to ask yourself 3 questions. Where can I cut things out? Where can I eliminate certain expenses. And then the next one is, where can I possibly reallocate some money, something out of here into that category. And then where you can create extra income. We had done our budget and we had skimped on a lot of things. So we'll go over this like list of things that we went through that were kind of wants and not needs, and luxuries, but not necessities. And so we definitely wanted to see if we could cut those out. So the first thing to go was cable television. And even now we don't have cable TV. And this was before Netflix and Amazon Prime and all the other ones that you can get now. We weren't streaming a thing. We were fixing the rabbit ears. Megan would make me stand up to watch The Bachelor. I would have to hold the rabbit ears a certain way just so she could watch it.
That's embarrassing. But the cool thing is, what we learned from that too, is when you cut out some of those things that are also usually a hindrance in your health goals too, right? Because those are the time suckers where so many of us say, I don't have time for that. But usually what we're really saying is that hasn't been a priority. And so the more you can kind of cut back on some of those things that have been the time suckers, you realize you have more time and more money.
Right. And it's uncomfortable to admit some of this stuff, but it's also very important to admit it, because it's you're seeing how you sort of act in certain behaviors, and then if you shut those down, you'll develop new ones. You'll develop new ways of getting what you want out of life, albeit cheaper version. So other things that we cut out were the big cell phone plan. We didn't. We cut down. I think we shared a gig for a lot of years. Like just until recently, we each shared a gigabyte of memory or data. I mean, we cut out all memberships and subscriptions. I don't think we had a gym at the time. We had no magazines and stuff like that. This was really easy to cut out. We purchased, well, mostly because my car got. I don't know. We sold my truck. I had a V8 truck. We sold that. I got a Prius. So this was a long time in the making. Yeah, very different.
We would walk whenever we could instead of driving too, just to try to save every penny that we could. We got a lot of free entertainment, and so again, we would either walk, or I would take my kids to like Petco, and that we called it the free zoo, and we would go and look at the bunnies and the kitties, and they were happy.
Yeah, we just got in trouble because you wanted to take them home all the time. And I said, no live animals while we're in debt.
Yeah, but it definitely got us really creative to just think of like, what can we do for free, and what can we do that was still, again, moving us forward in our health goals. So sometimes we would, pack a picnic and take a walk, drive to a lake or something like that, instead of some of the other entertainment things like going to the movies and some of those things that you could always make that like a bigger, longer term reward. But for the most part, kind of scaling back on a lot of those, just again, the wants, not the needs. We actually even collected for like a week all the different credit card offers that are sent. And it was astonishing to see like a pack of like 20 credit card offers, and just started shredding those. And then we got really streamlined in the credit card that we did use too. And so we would make sure that Dave Ramsey talks a lot about like cash envelope system. We didn't do that for everything. So we would use a card that was very efficient to give us the rewards, but we would treat it like it was just a debit card. And so we would pay it off immediately and not accrue any debt whatsoever.
Yeah. And he talks about you should feel money, whether it's getting it and the satisfaction of earning it, or when it goes out, that kind of pain and it's not there anymore. And so Megan and I feel money very strongly, even when it's a debit card, and we watched our bank accounts go down, and so we would feel that. So that's why it worked for us. Not everybody works like that. If you have a card, you can just sort of forget that it's connected to a bank account. And so we would recommend cash. We used cash with entertainment and Target runs and things that we would always go over, in terms of our budget. So we always wanted to use cash for those sorts of things. Since we've had kids, I don't think we've ever bought them any new clothes. We've always gone secondhand, big piles of clothes from friends.
And then especially even for you, if you're still on your health journey, this was something that I did when I was on mine. When you're losing all the weight, right? And so you do have some of those clothes that are no longer fitting. I found some great consignment stores locally, and I would just go and essentially trade out clothes, trade out sizes as you're losing. And that was really fun. Or you can always, there's so many online places now that you can just sell your clothing as well and eliminate that. Or if you need to buy any new one, just, again, there's some great consignment places too.
You're an entrepreneur to the bone.
Yeah. The other huge one that we eliminated though, and that will definitely, if you haven't already, you'll probably continue to see that you're going to save money, is the eating out. And the Starbucks drive-thrus or the coffee drive-thrus, or sometimes even just if you're still going to do that, not getting the $7 like frou drink, but getting like a coffee, a cup of coffee.
Calorie wise, it's too much anyway, but it's like still, at least when I was buying drip coffee, it's still $1.50. Maybe it's like $2.50 or $3.50 now, but it's way cheaper.
Yeah, I tried as much as we could to trade childcare, because we still wanted to make it a priority to have date nights and everything else. And so we found other couples that were kind of in that same boat too, where we were, and that's another point, is to try to find like some money buddies, where it's like you want to not necessarily do the drinks and the happy hours out that adds up and adds a lot of extra calories, but find some of those friends that they're also on that pursuit of like getting debt free or creating those healthy finances, or just even exchange of kind of swapping out the child care. I have a lot of clients and friends too. I'm not a big, like, I'm not great with my hair or makeup or anything like that, but a lot of them will cut out the salons and things like that, even to do their own hair. They won't necessarily get their nails done, or if they do, they again make that tied to and connected to when they've reached another health goal. And so they've even saved for that. And so sometimes it can be that reallocation as well, as maybe when you were going to go out or when you were going to go through that drive-through, you pocket the money instead. So you get to keep that cash, and then you get to maybe move it to another envelope if that's still a desire. And you're maybe a little bit of free spirit like me, where you then feel like you get a raise and you get to still move forward in your health goals of like, if you hit another 10-pound mark, yeah, maybe you get to reallocate and you get to go get a new water bottle. You get to get a new pair of yoga pants or a new tennis shoes or something. So you can be very creative with the bonuses essentially that you can give yourself by.
Right, because you need rewards along the way. They need to be health conscious and budget conscious, because if you're not giving yourself those rewards, what I found with Megan is, and Dave Ramsey says it, and it's Proverbs 12, absence, what is it at?
Hope deferred.
Hope deferred makes the heart sick. We're not just robots, an account, software, going down the list. We're humans, and we want, you want some sort of hope. So, we're talking about elimination right now, but I don't want it to be like, cut it out and you can't have any emotions at all, because that's going to lead you to want to do some stuff that's not within the budget or within your health goals. So
but for me, the big ones that I cut out too, where I started shopping alone, because I had a habit of shopping with my mom, and she is a notorious impulse buyer, or very much like, oh, that's so cute, you have to get it. And so I finally found that if I was going to go anywhere, I needed to go kind of by myself, so that I could just put it through my own filter of, is this a need or a want? That was a huge one. I started shopping for the real me, not the like hypothetical me of like, I like to dream that I'm like a stylist or triathlete or something. But granted, like I had a bunch of products that I never ever used, because I either didn't know how to use them, or it's usually, again, for me, it's not a huge priority. And so I had to start skimping on some of those things and just shop for the real me. And then I had to eliminate all the impulse buys. And so for me, for a while, that meant I didn't run to Target anymore. I started going to a different store for some of those quick stops, because we all joke about it usually, right, ladies? Like, how many of us, we go to Target and we're like, I have my list. I need like toilet paper and mascara or something. And then we walk out with bags of stuff and no toilet paper or mascara. And so for me, I had to, and for you might look at like, are you maybe a better than online shopper for some of those things? I've heard that many times, of you go for the one thing that you need, versus if you go in the store and you get to browse and see and walk through it all, and there's just so many temptations. Find what works best for you. So it might end up being that if you eliminate and free up some of your time too, by just online shopping for some of those necessities.
We're going to move through the next one. That was all elimination, in the elimination category. I feel like the next important one to go over is creating a budget. We talked about that. I would actually bring that to the beginning, because that's where you really get a good gut check. That's the standing on the scale, right? And kind of sitting with where you're at now, a budget, or just looking at your some software on people's online banking systems will do this for them. I have USAA, and it's got a whole budgeting tool, and I can quickly get a pie chart of where all my expenses are going, and that other category is thousands of dollars usually, and I'm just like, what's other? What does that go under? So it hurts. So I would, like I said, I would make that a priority this week to check that out. Maybe you have your statement from last month that's already been mailed to you sitting in your pile right now. You could check it. You can check that out. Budgeting. There's lots of software out there. Mint is one that I've seen. Like I said, I have USAA. Dave Ramsey's got a new one called something else. Every Dollar. That's what it's called. Every Dollar. So these are apps that you can use that talk with your bank. They're either free, or if you link them with your bank, they cost some money, but it's not very much. And you can get a budget created pretty quickly. I did mine on paper with a pencil because I'm horrible at math, and I had a calculator, and I just had to erase everything. And when you create a budget, that's when you know you can reallocate. Like if you're spending all this money on hair, but not enough on food, like you're running out of food, like there needs to be a reallocation there. And it's going to be painful for a month, or maybe honestly, probably 3 months. And the other thing I want to give you guys is tons of permission to screw it up, because when you're starting this out, it's horrible. It's a mess, and you're going to be finding things here and there. I think it's been 4 years now, and I'm still finding stuff like we need a category for that. Mm-hmm. So when you create a budget, just try to get as organized, sort of figure out who's got the natural ability to do that in your relationship, or if you're single, you're it, or going to H&R Block or something like that. So when you find out what you're spending, you can reallocate, and then you can, I like that because then you can look at goals, right? You can see how much you're spending, you can look at goals, and then you can kind of reverse engineer what you're trying to do and how you're trying to put money into this one category, whether it's savings, whether it's, hey, we need more money for food, or hey, we have it all figured out. Let's see if we can get more money set aside for travel, or all that stuff that gives you fulfillment and makes you want to keep going the distance if you're in debt. And then so with creating a budget and then figuring out where you can reallocate money and then possibly cutting out some things, we got to a point where there was nothing more we could cut out. We were selling stuff. We couldn't afford to give anything else away. Like it would have been the table or the chairs that we would need to sit in, or a bed or something like that. So what Megan started doing, what I started kind of figuring out is like, hey, we don't have an expense problem. We're spending within our means. We have an income problem. And so that's when Megan got involved with Optavia. I was thinking about maybe doing some part-time work at some extra clinics, or I was thinking about playing music at nights or something like that, but that was just more time away from the kids. So, not a shameless plug for Optavia, but that was why we were able to pull out as fast as we were of our debt and really set aside. And then, like I said, when we got out of that debt, I didn't realize how unhealthy it had been making me. All of my decisions were based in fear of not being able to pay the loan off, or our mortgage off, or bring food home, Yeah. So Megan's got some other ideas for how to create income.
Yeah. So obviously coaching was a huge one for us. It did help us get out of that, all of the debt, and be able to pay cash for our vehicles now and everything else. And so we just continue to, set the bar a little bit higher in terms of like now creating, again, more experiences versus like just accumulating stuff. That was something that we've really, really learned over the years. But in terms of like creating income, or sometimes it might be investing your time or money into different things that are maybe going to move you a little bit forward. Something that I even just did over the weekend, I posted some stuff that we just kind of no longer needed. There's so many great, apps and things. There's like the Facebook Marketplace that I use a lot, and I made like $500 just from selling things that no longer serve us. Yeah. And so usually if you kind of look around and look at the things that you have, and is this still bringing me joy? Is this still something that I could use in my life, or is it even cluttering my mental space? And so sometimes looking through those things and just parting ways with them, which usually is going to be blessing somebody else in return too.
Yeah, we are having conversations with all the people that we sold things to. It was really fun to see
where
it was going to go.
Yeah. And so for that, even let's say you're going to do that and you're going to sell off some stuff. If you don't already, I would really encourage you, like our baby stuff. Number one, we had to create an emergency fund and kind of Murphy-proof yourself, because if you haven't noticed it already, usually when you do start running out of money, that's when it's like the car breaks down, or some like kid gets sick, or something else happens. And so the more that you can just kind of Murphy-proof yourself, create that $1,000 emergency fund to start, and then start building it to be like a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And you're going to find you're Murphy-proof at that point. And so you might still have emergencies happen.
You're never fully,
but they don't wipe you out completely either.
It won't completely rock your budget and then make you just throw in the towel and say, this is too hard, I can't do it. So yeah, some sort of buffer is all we're talking about. And Dave Ramsey recommends a month to start out until you're out of debt. And then after that, you build to 3 to 6 months of expenses. So
yeah, but I also wanted to just kind of leave you guys with this thought too. There was a great book that I read called The Compound Effect. And if you've not heard this kind of concept before, but he talked about the magic penny. And so I want to give you this idea. If you were given the option, $3 million in cash or a single penny that doubles in value every day for 31 days, what would you choose? Most of us, we're usually gonna opt to have that $3 million in cash on the spot, right? But here's the difference. Most of us, even though we would pick that 3 million right off the top of our, like right away, it takes longer to see the payoff with accepting the penny that doubles. But here's by day 5, the penny would have 16 cents. Another person would have that 3 million. By day 10, you would have $5.12. By day 20, you'd have a little over $5,000. But by day 31, you have over $10 million because it's just that consistency over time. And that plays a role in our health, that plays a role in everything that we do. And so again, it can play into your finances as well. And so it's just those tiny little steps consistently over time that will compound. And so the compound effect is always working. We talk about that, right? Where it's either you're compounding towards working towards your optimal health with your healthy body. It's compounding either in bringing you closer to those financial goals that you've set for yourself and your family, or it's taking you further away. And so, but just know that sometimes those tiny little changes, those reallocations, those times that you can maybe cut back or save or eliminate, it's gonna change your whole, kind of financial future in a lot of ways too.
Right, and think about how the weight that you were possibly carrying around before 5 and 1, and then after 5 and 1, how that freed you up.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, and that's why a lot of finances or unhealthy finances, that why it just factors in. And I think it all kind of stems from the healthy mind piece. If you're kind of acting out with food, then you might be acting out with money.
That was my big one. When I was no longer acting out with food, I started acting out with money.
Yeah.
And so then it became this eye opener of like, okay, well now I need to look at that and rein that one in too.
Yeah, we got serious with 5 and 1 and Dave Ramsey at the same time. It was that same January. We had just said we're tired of this and we can't live like this anymore. So, and like I said, Optavia, whether it was through the 5 and 1, or then as the business opportunity rolled around, the financial piece that we got from it, it's life-changing. So.
Yeah. Well, and I know Amy was going to share, but I'm going to brag on her for a minute. She had to pop off for something else. But Amy and Carl, 2 amazing friends of ours, they bought a brand new Kia Sorento. I think it was a Sorento in January, and they just paid it all off. And so I wish they were on the line to kind of just publicly celebrate them. But that's, again, the compound effect in overhaul, crazy. So I really wanted to take a moment to celebrate them and that amazing accomplishment because they are just, creating an incredible legacy. Yeah. But we are a little bit past 6, so we'll go ahead and jump off tonight. But I hope this was valuable for you all. Maybe gave you some things to, again, find your pressure point of where do you feel it and what, again, is your big vision of what you want to create with your finances, your current reality, and then again, what those little in-betweens, the action steps that will continue to move you forward towards that goal. So hope you guys have a great night. It was wonderful to spend it with you.